away as quickly as I can. My job is to introduce Rev Richard Browning, who, can you tell me your title at Radford? Because it has changed, hasn't it, Richard?
Farmer Richard.
Farmer Richard. Richard is farmer extraordinaire at Radford College in Canberra. There are so many things I could tell you about Richard. I had, I guess, the honour of working with him for 2 years, and in many ways it really was 2 years that kind of changed my life, because I guess it inspired me to know what kind of things were possible. And also, Richard opened a space for me, I guess, in the school that he was in to grow and flourish. But I think the thing I want to say most about him is that he's been my friend. And so I'd like you to welcome him this morning as he speaks.
Apparently last night was absolutely fabulous. I say apparently. You've all got to sneak away somewhere sometime, don't you? And mine was last night. A little window of time needed to go and be with a cousin, and mine was last night. But it sounds like the food, the people, the stories was just absolutely brilliant. I'd like to begin really by saying, don't believe Stephen Harrison. I'm not remarkable. I'm not amazing. I'm just doing my thing where I am to the best of my ability. And the truth is, look at you. The stories are all here. So don't be anxious and envious of what else is out there. Where you are and who you are is where you need to be doing what you are already doing. And so there's no expert. We're in this little journey together. So I am fundamentally flawed, profoundly hypocritical, and if there's one thing worse than gathering amongst people who are doing good works and happy to talk about it, is someone who's pushed forward to speak out of their own experience and be really annoyingly righteous about how awesome all this stuff is. So I want to be honest up front that any one of you could share your stories and be equally open about what amazing things are happening. I begin by saying that we come here on the shoulders of people who've gone before us. So I'm here because there's people who've gone before us. And in a way, I'm here because Stephen Harrison actually believed in me. It's extraordinary how powerful it is to have somebody else who just honours you with you're actually doing okay. And that for me has been one of the most powerfully enabling things for me, is to know that there's one person who actually trusts me, believes in what I'm doing. And that has been an incredibly enabling thing for me. And it's just embarrassing that he's my friend, rather than just a colleague who's done that. But Stephen, that's been an incredible gift to me. Some of the shoulders that we stand on is, I'm very proudly, humbly Australian. We live in a continent where human culture has been here for over 40,000 years. That language, culture, nations have lived here over an incredibly long period of time. We have always been a continent of many nations. It's not a new invention. So the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander gift to us is a long, long history of many nations living together. We have so much to learn from that story and countless other stories. So I stand on the shoulders then of a culture and language and peoples who extend way, 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 way back. I don't know the name of this. I know it's Murray Land, but I don't know. I don't want to pronounce the name because I don't, but I know I come from Nuttall country. I know my former school on the Gold Coast was Yugonga country. I know that I was born in Armidale, which is Alamain, and that just to the west is Gamilaroi country, and just to the west of where I live at the moment in Canberra is Wiradjuri, an amazing nation whose language is still vibrant and still living and is able to be taught and learned. So we all are on the shoulders of somebody else. And this artwork, by the way, is by Frankie Spark. I wrote my talk in January, which is a mistake, because it's not January anymore. And we've had 2 fabulous days and it's changed. So it's not a book, but I will publish it with Frankie's artwork. And it's not this artwork, by the way. So you're welcome to have it, but I just will share some of the stories that come out of this. Some of the shoulders that I stand on is that woman in the middle there. When my youngest son, Matthew, was very young, he, in a very unquiet voice, said, pointing to the woman with wrinkly hair and long greying locks, said, with her in earshot, "Who's the witch?" And Valerie laughs out loud. The witch is my auntie, the sister of my father. She's called Malika, which is the mother of the Afar. She will die in the Horn of Africa. She's the most extraordinary woman. That boy there is Nabil. She just adopts children. He lives with HIV. She doesn't tell her family anymore who she's adopted because she's tired of her brothers and sisters telling her to stop doing what she does, and she can't. So she's the most extraordinary woman. So a lot of where I come from, my story, is on the shoulders of a woman like Valerie, who is truly remarkable. And we call him Bill. That's Nabil. And that's my... Can you pick who's the rugby player there? David Pocock is another person on whose shoulders I would stand. And I'm really amazed that my son, Matthew, on Epiphany each year we do some things, ask 3 questions. What are you afraid of? What do you want to be when you grow up? And what makes you most alive when you're happiest? And we've just been recording it for the last 10, 15 years of each of our children. Matthew would say now, when I grow up I want to be an activist. Meaning he's been around people like David Pocock and has seen him. He was actually at Maules Creek Mine when David locked on. Matthew, my son, was desperate to go and be locked on with David Pocock. And there's a whole bunch of stories there. But the truth is we stand on the shoulders of a whole bunch of others. And one of those people is with me. I'm really privileged to have the Director of Service Learning from Radford College here. And it's beautiful just to have a colleague to bang up against, not to agree with all the time, but to rub up against. And that's a terrific gift to be able to stand in the company of people with whom we're learning together. So, the task, I think my chief task is always, or our chief task is always to see, to help us to see. So I'm standing in front of you saying, I think I can see, kind of okay. Please would you help my blindness? Please would you help my unseen? I'd like to start then where I will finish. And that's with a couple of stories. I also like, a lot of what I'm sharing comes from our engagement with Timor-Leste. So on your little page, questions, can I give you some questions? Why is it easier to take a school to Timor than build authentic relationships with your local Indigenous community? That's my experience. It was easier for us to go to Timor-Leste than actually start where you live. And still safe, actually. Why is this called transforming service? Why isn't it a conference called Stuff to Do About Service Learning? Why are we loading this whole... This is Sarah Batchelard's question, really. Why are we always setting ourselves up for doing something more? I don't know, would you have come if it was stuff about service? Possibly not. So I'm standing here inheriting an incredible learning of 8 years through our engagement with Timor-Leste people. They are extraordinary. And I would hold up some of our experiences that would be grateful for them and would want to say, I can't do this and say. You are aware Operation Sovereign Borders, we actually haven't got a finished border. There's a gap in our sovereign border. You know where it is. It's around precious land that's under the sea, where there's a shitload of oil. And we are happy to give aid to Timor-Leste in millions of dollars, whilst we might quietly sequester billions and billions of oil. I can't stand here and tell stories that come from Timor-Leste and not say, why aren't we playing fair? Why have we withdrawn ourselves from international fora where you are meant to be able to negotiate like adults? And all they're saying is, come to the table and have the conversation. Play fair, medium line, please. Just apply the same rules you do with Papua New Guinea or New Zealand or anyone else. Children from Fatanaba School cut out shapes in paper and made many creatures. All the animals were hungry. There were fish, but not enough for all. The pig said, I'm the most important, and I can have as much as I want, said the red pig, and took 3 fish and ate them. The dog, who was the strongest, said, I'm the strongest. I can take whatever I want, and took 2 fish. The snake said, if I'm quick, I can snatch a fish in a dip. All the other animals were hungry, and now there was just 1 fish left. If we're not greedy, 1 fish is enough, said the boy. The more we share, the more we have. All the animals sat back as something extraordinary took place. As 1 fish became many fish, boy took fish and shared with animals until they had all eaten enough. I'll come back to that story at the end. The more we share, the more we have. The more we share, the more we have. It's tempting to just roll out amazing stories. You've heard some, they're incredible. But here are just a couple of images of some of our work with boys with a local school called Black Mountain. We are in debt to Black Mountain School. It is a mistake to think Radford College is the institution which is doing something amazing with the local school with children who have profound disabilities. The truth is that they are gracious enough to allow us to come. It's hard to say that in a way that might sound believable, but it is. On the right there is a boy called... I actually haven't had a lot to do with... He's not my disciple. He has been through our school and a lot of different experiences. I'd like to start where we finish and just read briefly from him. And it goes like this. He spoke to the whole school community on the last day of term for us, which was Friday a week ago. And this is what he said. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for opportunities my school has given me. I'm grateful that in 10 years, that in year 10, I was able to visit Black Mountain School. I'm grateful that Black Mountain was able to teach me that even though I complained about every morning about getting out of bed at 6 a.m, there are people who literally can't get out of bed. I'm grateful that each week I can visit Rain Basketball, an event that's hosted by the Y at our school on Wednesday evenings. And that I can see the same smiling faces. I'm grateful for my stability and routine, as I know that some of those same smiling faces can't be there each week because of the chaos in their lives. I'm grateful for the opportunity I was given last year to travel out to Gamilaré country and spend a week in Minabar Primary School. I was so grateful that I was able to meet a 6-year-old little Aboriginal girl who was not much taller than my knee and had a croaky voice. I'm so grateful that she was able to teach me how to play round and round the garden like a teddy bear, even though we played it for hours and it was never my turn. And even though I know how low her odds are of succeeding, and how much it angers me that we can go on each day unable to even grasp how lucky we are, I'm grateful that I was able to be a part of her life for 1 week, even just a week. Is just a knob at our school. He's in Year 12, and he's real. And that's his voice, but it's his voice engaging a long period of time in genuine engagements. If I was to play with my brain, I'd love to talk with you, Mob, about how we weave values and practice. And that for me, the metaphor for that is a double helix. You can't actually separate values and practice, ever. But how do you shape the values that might be shared by our practitioners, our colleagues? That's a really, really good question. And I've got some answers to that, but this is not the place to do that. I was at a conference 2 years ago when a remarkable young woman returned to the conference by the host school who was in Year 14 and spoke about the work that she'd been doing in an orphanage in Asia. And I sat down afterwards and just asked some questions. And they were just genuine questions. There was a silence that wasn't awkward, but it was filled at the end, a little hurriedly, I thought, by her saying, I just want to make a difference. And the first person I talked to about that was Stephen Harrison. The second person was you, George, about that. And the response really is, who cares what you want, isn't it? Who cares what you want? But that's a bit harsh. And we're here, aren't we? Not to transform service necessarily, but to honour the heart that takes a young person to want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, that's rich and real and meaningful, and be intelligent and able to do something that is real and not a function of what I want. That's my challenge. It might not be yours, but that's our challenge. So, going to play with that for a little bit. But before we do, why? All of us have to answer this question. Why? Why do what you're doing? You have to answer that. Your school community has to answer. The answer is inside your charism, your ethos, your values, your identity. So there's your answer. How do you articulate what actually is that? So why do we do what we do? If we are unsure about that, we need to slow down. Slow down. And just draw breath. What actually is that? So what's your why? Where is your identity bound up in your doing, your busyness? I'm going to say two things. One's about person, the other is about poverty. About person, this is kind of a statement that could be theological, but it need not be. And it comes with this. Reality is relational. Full stop. That's not a statement of faith. Reality is relational. So scientists can say that. A student of ancient literature, medieval history, whatever is your discipline, reality is relational. So the nature of a person then, there is no person outside of relating. You and I belong to a tradition that has been complicit in a lie, and that is that the starting point is the individual. And we've been complicit in that for centuries now, that the individual is the starting point. And we create curriculum and send out beautiful documents about individualised learning and outcomes for the individual. And so if we're talking about the right giant to wrestle with, one of them is our own culture, but also our complicity as the Western Church particularly, that perpetuates this lie that the individual is the most important, or at least the starting point. So there are some ways of understanding it. For us as a school, that's the picture, if you like, if we were to talk about our why. To be honest though, maybe I'm the only person who can articulate that. in my school? No, that's not true. But here's a picture, our values horizon. There's our values horizon. That the reality is the lived world is fundamentally relational, and that you actually have to find the ways of engaging. There's a language that we can put into that space, into that gap. That gap is sacred. That gap is sacred. There's a language that we can put there, but in the end, it's not laid with religious or profound connotations other than you've got to find the way to relate. You've got to learn how to see the other as a friend, brother, sister, colleague. You have to pay attention. Respect is not negotiable. They're the three words. A student looking at this goes, oh, I get it. So if you can't do this, you're rooted. Yeah, actually. Yeah. This is a really icky click art of an extraordinary revelation. And the revelation is bound to a mandate. But mandate or command is possibly not the right way for understanding it, to love one another. Possibly it might be more accurate to say that's a statement about the nature of reality. Everything is connected. And so when Jesus takes off his robe and washes feet, the mistake is that literalist Christians think that we've got to copy Jesus and do meaningless symbolic actions of niceness to others that bear no resemblance to the needs of another. And I've done my duty. The act that Jesus portrays is a deep window into a statement about how God actually is in the world from the beginning. In that beautiful cathedral, there is a crucified Christ that hangs above the altar. That's not a statement about something that happened at a point in time. It's a statement about who God is across time. The word is kenosis, and that is to say that from the very beginning, God empties and pours out from the beginning. And what we understand in the Easter event is that same event in a particular event and time, the particularity of Jesus, the incarnate Jesus. So what Jesus is saying is, don't do it because I'm commanding you to do it. It just is reality. Reality is an expression of kenosis, of self-emptying, of the donation and pouring of oneself out towards the other. That's what God has done. So, ladies and gentlemen, our solidarity then with the world at large is not an act of goodness that we do to feel that faith is the motivating force behind us to do good things. It is simply a conscious willingness to be in solidarity with God who is already doing that, has already done that. So relax, don't be anxious. You can't save the world. And that's God's business. Our intention is to stand in solidarity with the God who has done that from the beginning. Now, the very first thing we saw was whoever the ACU big knob is who couldn't be here. I'm so rude. He used the word Ubuntu. That comes from a different land. But that's a statement about there is no I because I think. It is I because I belong, because I'm known. Now we have a theology for that. It's called Trinity. It is that everything is connected, everything is related. So our engagement then with the world is not good works, is not neediness, is not something that we need to be applauded for. It's not even a command. It's a statement about the way things are. That means, ladies and gentlemen, that anyone can participate in it, discover it, explore it, without overlaying religious language. And our gift is to encourage it, explore it, and help a language that might populate the vocabulary, give a necessary vocabulary for people to delight in God who is present in the world. So, the language we use then, the common good, is a beautiful description of, if you want to do the most selfish thing, do something for the common good. So in Jeremiah 29, under occupation in foreign land in Babylonia, work for the good of the city. Your prosperity is bound up in the prosperity of the city. That's an extraordinary statement as exiles in a foreign land. Anyway, that's enough theology. So relax, stop being so busy and good. And delight in the God who is already present in that place and has from the beginning of the foundation of the earth always been like the one who pours out in donation and be in solidarity with that God. I just want, where does I come from? How much of the I comes from me? And how much of it actually is rooted in you? Where does the I come from? And to be fair to that beautiful student, if you don't start with I, where do you start? Oops. My first word in making a statement about my solidarity with the outside world begins with I. You are aware there's countless stories of the best of intentions that actually lead to devastating outcomes. I learned about this when I first went to Timor-Leste. Valerie, conversations before going. You are aware that every single virtue can be corrupted. Every single virtue can be employed with passion and integrity and lead to the destruction of another. Alienation of the self in that as well as the other. Except compassion. That's what I thought. Until I went to Timor and listened to this story. Rufino is an old man who's now died, and who was a criado. In 1941, Australian soldiers went to Timor-Leste and brought the Second World War to Timor-Leste. And young Timorese were put alongside Australian soldiers and carried their food and made beautiful relationships. Were amazing. At the end of it, when it became obvious that the Australian soldiers had to leave, those criados were at profound risk. The Australians, and this is where the debt of honour begins, the Australians were so moved with thank you, I owe you. They dropped everything, gave them everything that they had. It was on a beach on the southern end. It's only barely hours sail from Timor-Leste to Darwin, and thanked them. Tom Nisbet, who's Rufino's Australian soldier, said, go, just get out of here, go. And Rufino then tells, he was a couple of kilometres up the valley when he heard the gunshots. On the beaches were all the criado. And they're just picking up all the stuff that had been left by indebted Australian soldiers. And the fact that their generosity was given at that particular point led to the Japanese who then came, stormed the beach, and then killed everyone who was on the beach. That shocked me and woke me up to this naivety that I had, that I can just be compassionate and everything will be okay. And it's not true. We have to do something more than just have the best of intentions. So compassion is corruptible. And possibly, maybe the only one left would be humility. But ladies and gentlemen, help me see my own blindness. Every virtue, that's a challenge, every virtue is corruptible. So of all people, we should be extremely cautious and open to our own hubris, and glad that somebody could shine a light into my blindness, your blindness. Adjust. I just want. Where does want come from? Where does desire come from? Isn't it borrowed anyway? Doesn't it come from outside? Is want something that simply stirs independently within? or does it come from outside ourselves? Maddie went to Timor-Leste, beautiful, beautiful kid. I met with her last week again. Maddie Miller is her name. She tells this story. She was there for a short period of time and playing with a beautiful girl, and she became aware that the hairband that was around her hand, the girl suddenly really was attracted to. Maddie, immediately when she became conscious of this, took it off and gave it to her. Beautiful, simple. It's a $2 plastic hairpiece. Then something else happened. The friend, who had another friend, saw what just took place. And then in that moment, this friend wanted the same thing. And suddenly then two friends were in opposition to each other. And Maddie's now conscious. I've introduced this. My presence here has actually introduced this. I'm telling you this story because this is what happened next. This beautiful, beautiful person gave the hairband back to me. And it's so unremarkable, so just not significant that those two children would not even remember that event, I would say. Maddie did. Still does. And it's been a defining event for her. Why actually were we there in the first place? Should we have been there? Where does want come from? Whose wants win? In a world of scarcity, whose wants win? To see. So I'm not giving you answers by the way, but I'm just... Well, I can, but you got to work it out. I just want to make. Can you make someone free? Can you make even someone learn? Can you make... Can you make someone powerful? A healer man walked into a city. Out on the doors of the city was a beggar man, blind beggar man. And the healer man saw the blind beggar man and healed him. He waited to be thanked. And then the once was blind beggar man was shocked, profoundly disturbed and angry, and then at peace. He took both thumbs and drove them into his sockets and plucked out his own eyes and, discarding them, proceeded to beg. That's a beautiful story, by the way. I think it's in the Gospel of Thomas, and Jesus might be the healer there. But what a brilliant story. Can you make someone well? Can you make someone free? The dynamics of that particular thing is, I think, incredibly powerful. I just want to make a difference. So, one question. Go to Timor-Leste, do your stuff. What's the one question that's asked when you come back? What did you do? What did you do? How do you answer that? Why does our culture propose that is the dominant question? What other questions could be asked? If it wasn't that question, what other question could be asked, should be asked? There's a great question. What did you learn? So, a little bit then about poverty. In our culture, we're trained to conceive poverty as a lack of stuff. Health, shelter, money, opportunity, work, all that kind of stuff. So with that mindset of poverty, all you have to do is hand over what's missing. But what if that's not poverty? And you know it's not. What if poverty actually is, first and foremost, the lack of the ability to do anything about what you're doing? So a student coming back from Gamilaroi country or Timor stands there and says, if a person could do something about their situation, don't you reckon they would? Oh, of course. So if poverty is first the lack of the power to do anything about it, when we give stuff, haven't we just increased the poverty? Haven't we just dehumanised and increased the ability for someone else to be dependent upon? Have you ever been somewhere where you're on a plane or a train or something, and you're just near somebody who just kind of does this random act of self-violence? My interpretation of that act is somebody who's remembering something that they regret and wish they could undo. That's been me on a number of occasions. Idiot. One such person is the author of When Helping Hurts. And he narrates going to a slum in Nairobi, I think it was. Rich, white, beautiful man, and being alongside an amazing church community there in doing some incredible work in the slum. The local witch doctor, coincidentally her name is Grace, becomes Christian and then succumbs to what the most obvious is obviously is tonsillitis. So here's this incredible moment in the community. Incredible moment in the community. And they need, it's a simple thing, antibiotics, fix it, 2 days. She's lying on the floor sweating and will die in a couple of days unless. And this is an incredible opportunity in that community. And sitting in the plane, flying home to America, idiots! In his pocket is more than enough money to buy antibiotics for that woman. What do you do? What do you do? Sure. And that's what he did. On the way home, he's kicking himself. Idiot. I've just continued this practice that power comes from overseas, that power lives in white people, that power exists out there somewhere, and it's now just left the country. When the reality is, and this is that community, that Christian community, that pastor, have the power, have the ability to do what is necessary. And his presence didn't facilitate that realisation. It actually perpetuated an ancient pattern of it comes from somewhere else. So, to see. Don't be hard on ourselves. We're all learning. I've done this countless times. Countless times. I was in your company, George Hooker, when we pulled up outside Bundara State High School. Our school has been working alongside an amazing man doing a thing called Crossing the Divide, providing educational opportunities for people who cannot sit inside mainstream education. Physically can't. And the only institution that realistically is in front of them is correctional services or death. And students coming out from the school going across to this service. And my first words is an exuberant greeting. Hey, skipping school, are we? Well, yeah. I have to because I'm not allowed to be in school anymore. And I'm just meeting my friends. I'm actually going Crossing Divide across the way. You dickhead. And that's actually what George said to me. To see, and to see my own blindness. And again, to be reminded how disrespectful I have been through my own blindness. And to give you an example, I'll take students to Timor-Leste again. This will be the 8th time our school takes them. I still have not mastered Tamil. That's actually rude. And someone's helped me see that. Really? If you're fair to come, that's rude. So I come back to where I began. I need you to help me see. Beautiful colleagues to help me see. So this is what we talk about for our school. Our service is engagement. Being human with others, standing in solidarity, building relationships, building community. Service is engagement. It's about being human. There's no beautifully religious language. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that comes with that. But that's what it is. Can I say, how do you assess that? Our service learning sits outside curriculum. And I'm conscious that we need to move some of it into curriculum. But I'm also really happy that it doesn't live there on its own. That there is something just real about creating opportunities for human beings to be human with others and facilitating learning around that. Never, ever to, not even for but with, has been a helpful phrase for us to use. And it's all about bestowing power. But how does a friend give a friend power? You were never conscious, Stephen Harrison, by your, I'd like today to give Richard Browning power by believing in him. And there you are. You're never conscious of this. And I was never conscious that it was taking place until sometime later. How do you assess? So, to be real, to be human together, is just a beautiful, beautiful thing that we want to increase the capacity for a community to be engaged in that reality. Everyone's human. We're not experts on being human because you are one as well, and so but we want to increase the capacity for us to be human together. How can the powerful give power to the powerless? Without belittling, without patronising, without being condescending. And you do it every day. What teacher in a classroom comes up to a student who's really struggling with their learning and comes alongside and does their learning for them? That's called a parent, by the way. But what teacher, seriously, for a student who is struggling in their learning, comes alongside and does their learning for them? So whatever is the answer to that question, educators do it all the time. Everywhere. And it baffles me that when we go overseas to another place, we flip out of an educational model and slip into what I would think is most likely a medical model. That suddenly now I'm the expert and I've got stuff. We'll never go to Timor and build anything. We'll never go to Timor and teach students how to do unskilled labour. As if to say, there's not anyone in Timor who can do something that you're not skilled at doing. So come back to that. What do you do? What actually do you do? I can answer that. It's actually easier in Gamilarate country because we speak the same language. It's almost as easy as putting the right students in the right classroom in the right school. For Cameron Sandbridge is his name. I am grateful, he says. But somewhere else in a different culture, what do you do when our dominant paradigm is about me? You get that. We've kind of put this into a little palm guide, just with some helpful cues to just make it easy for a student to not over kind of analyse things, but if you want to know what you're meant to do, here it is. Okay? I'm going to pause there and say, it's in this book. That's George Hooker. This is not a shameless promotion. It's simply a statement. If you want to learn through the experiences of a school, but particularly a person who's borne the cost of walking alongside one of the most socially, on every marker, Tingha, Bandara, that kind of part of, and they're everywhere, by the way, but on every marker on socioeconomic, education, teenage pregnancy, employment, incarceration, all those measures, is one of the most challenging places in Australia. What does it look like for us to go there again and again and again and again and again and in 10 weeks for the 14th time? What does it look like? And it's not pretty, it's messy, there's some incredibly uncomfortable lessons there. It's called Big Life, but it is the story of a person who's taken our students to that environment, and here's some lessons. If you want to get inside that story, I really commend this book to you, and I'll help you find out how to get it if you're interested. I just want to make a difference. If you're going to go once, is it better to not go at all? I can tell you what Valerie Browning would say. Absolutely. Just leave us alone. We're fine. Well, let's flip it. What if the art is just the person? And this is kind of coming back to the beginning. What if it is just that student who's got this beautiful heart for... You're telling me I can't even say I just want to make a difference? You're just making it so hard for me. No, your heart, beautiful. We want to set it on sale for the rest of your life, but to help you understand what is real and sustainable for a lifetime. One of the most challenging things for me, from Valerie, she was here when the floods through Myanmar just smashed everything. And she said this, why do we persist in sending in experts from overseas to do post-flood disaster management? And her proposition is, the people have been living with drought, flood, disaster for a long time. Why do you think you are the experts coming in now to do this? And there was huge pushback at her. You naive, idealistic goose. This is from a woman who works in one of the hottest places on earth, with one of the last remaining nomadic peoples on the earth, who a benefactor has come and built a beautiful school for her community. And they said, thanks, we'll use it for a couple of weeks, but we've got to move on when the camels go. And the school collects dust. And she's done incredible things in teaching the women how to be a teacher and how to be a nurse. And she's saying, trust the people, but we can't. There's something in us that creates an industry of aid. So trust the people, trust the people, trust the people, trust the people. And what does it look like for us to be alongside people who are incredibly capable, profoundly resourceful, ingeniously inventive? How do we do that? I think there's some of the questions that we need to play with. So let's turn around. What if it's just you? You're just one. There were two great cities that were separated by a gulf that was deep and impenetrable. And they kept throwing stuff across the gulf, and soon they became not just arrows but bombs. And a little boy on one side waited for all the dust and bombs to settle, and he'd take out his little kite. And he'd fly his kite during the quietness of the storm. And he noticed on the other side that there were other little children doing the same. But it was with a ball. And the little children looked at each other and wondered, under the dust and all that anger and men's business. And then they realised that you could fly a kite across the Gulf. And when you fly a kite across the Gulf, you can tie something onto the string of the kite. And so that's what they did. And then they found a way of passing things from one side of the Gulf to the other. And then one day someone looked at this and said, why are we doing this? And after you fly a kite across with a string, you can tie a little rope. And after you tie a little rope, you can tie a cable. And after a cable, you can tie whatever you like. And that's how you build a bridge. That actually is how you build a bridge. That's actually how they built a bridge across Niagara, 1864. It was a kite. All you need is one string. All you need is one light, one spark, one word, one touch, one song, one vote, one gift, one moment, one smile. All of that. That's all it is. That's all it is. And human beings have been doing it forever. So to that beautiful, beautiful girl who I don't want to harm. Yes, yes, yes. Maybe it is you, but it's not going to be the way you imagine. I just want to make a difference. So some stories then. Fly, fly, fly. You amazing people in your incredible communities. Fly, fly, fly. This story, we took an artist with us to Timor-Leste. Frankie Spark is her name. She did that work with the children. Just 3 weeks ago, got confirmation that that story that I told at the beginning has been picked up by the Educational Department of Timor-Leste. They want to publish it and distribute it across every school. There is no way, 7 years ago when we first went, that that was an outcome that we had in mind. It's a complete accident. And I'm telling you this with confidence because it's not me that's made that happen. It's not me. I'm just saying it happened. And it came out of a relationship that we had. I landed in Timor-Leste with 14 students and one other staff member. We did not do a risk assessment. We'd never been in that country. Didn't know who was going to be our guide. We were completely naive, and I've learned so much. And there's many other stories that we could tell. That's just one of them. Could never have, ever have planned that. This is a festival arranged by our school. You're invited. That it's organised by students. And it's at times clumsy. We actually do offend people through our lack of preparation. But this year, we've learnt from all of that. And when Kirsty Sword Guzmau comes and speaks, or Jessica Watson, or Akram Mazzini, or Frank Brennan, or all those things, there'll be some amazing moments created there. I'm not getting a bell, by the way. What's going on?
You're about 4 minutes.
Okay. But one of the things that it will be there is students will be the speakers. And the students will speak because we've walked with them to help them narrate, what are you passionate about? What is your passion? Choose one. Just one. All right. Can you describe the issue? What actually is the issue? What then is your intended impact around that issue? What's your strategy and plan? And we want to help you do that. So to give you one example, Bridget is her name. She wants, her issue, passionate about lots of things, this one thing. The inequalities of educational opportunities. Oh, that's just that. That huge global issue. Yes, it is that. Her intended impact is in her own community to be a mentor, a student mentor with children from refugee community. There's an amazing organisation called Migrant Refugee Support Services in Canberra. They run a program called PASS in the local school. Students can come and buddy. It's really simple. This global issue, huge issue, she can do something every Monday at Belconnen Library. And that's what she's doing. So she may well be one of the speakers for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, just narrating that story. And it's not about cultivating a practice of busyness and you're awesome, you're saving the world. It's just honouring the integrity of what is stirring within her and doing the work of mentoring them into a pathway of you can actually engage in that work meaningfully and identify yourself with a global issue. Oz Harvest, awesome thing. They pick up a whole bunch of food, rescue food on Monday. They drop it off at our school on Monday. Tuesday, 40 Year 10 students cook in our food studies place and create 100 amazing meals. And on Wednesday, Oz Harvest pick those up and then distribute them to some amazing places. You've got stories like that. But the only reason we do that is because a whole complicity of people are in that, none less than Kathleen Jackson, who is the director, the person who works in food studies. But 3 years ago, a young girl in Year 10, Freda is her name, was the one who started that, who proposed that, who got students around her to do that. I'm going to finish with the last paragraph from, and it goes like this. Being grateful does not mean you have to sulk or confront every issue. But I do believe that if everyone was grateful about their lives and the people around them, it would make issues easier to address. That's what I've learned about over my 5 years at this school. My gratefulness is what drives me. And I believe that if we were not grateful for the experiences we have, then we can never start to address the inequalities which are prevalent in our society. That's a 17-year-old boy teaching me. You've been listening very, very well.